Thank you, Vice President Beeler. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees meeting. It's wonderful to see you all. We have a packed house here in the boardroom. I'm really gratified to see even a couple students have joined us. That's great. Welcome also to everybody who's joined us outside the boardroom, and also a very special welcome to those who have taken the time tonight to join us via our video live feed. We'll call the meeting to order. The first thing we need to do is to take a roll call of the members present. Board members, when I call your names, please indicate your presence by saying here. Mr. Beeler. Here. Mrs. Galloway.
Here.
Mr. Garrett.
Here.
Mrs. Gates.
Here.
Ms. Roach.
Here.
Mr. Woods.
Present.
I am Mr. Riley. I too am here. First item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Board members, do you have any additions or changes to the agenda for tonight's meeting? Hearing none, is the administration?
The administration has no changes.
Then do I have a motion to adopt the agenda for the Monday, June the 21st, 2021 regular board meeting as presented?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. Board members, do you have any additions or changes to the minutes from the May 17, 2021 executive session and regular board meeting, and the June the 3rd, 2021 special board meeting, and the June 14th, 2021 special board meeting? Hearing none, does the administration?
The administration has no changes.
Then do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 17, 2021 executive session and regular board meeting, the June 3rd, 2021 special board meeting, and the June the 14th, 2021 special board meeting as presented?
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
That motion also carries by a vote of 7-0. We'll now move on to the superintendent's recognitions and announcements. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees, and welcome everyone. It's great to see all of you. Okay, I want to review something that was very, very important that we did last summer. Last summer, a number of our Penn students and Penn graduates brought to our attention concerns about racism in our schools and our school system. Since that time, the PHM Board of School Trustees and Administration have worked hard to address racism. Last July, the school board approved the hiring of a diversity officer, Derek White, who is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've done a number of positive things, but we have not been perfect in the process of working to address racism. The administration has received a number of requests recently regarding information on PHM's curriculum on critical race theory. We do not have a written curriculum to teach critical race theory. We've used materials from national organizations, one of which depicted a pyramid with words and phrases on a slide presented at a Penn High School professional development activity for Penn teachers. It was a pyramid of white supremacy which contained a number of words and phrases which do not represent what we want to project. In our goal to value and celebrate diversity, we want all of our students to feel valued and significant. We want our faculty and staff to feel valued and significant. In retrospect, we would not use that slide again, and that is why the administration pulled it for further use. To help answer questions that have been raised by some community members and to partner with parents, we're planning to hold public information meetings to share information, answer questions, and receive feedback. The dates have not been set at this point, but we're planning to hold the information sessions before the beginning of the school year. We plan on hosting a morning session, an afternoon session, and an evening session to allow interested parents to participate. We'll be asking attendees to register in advance so that we can schedule the appropriate location with enough space for all who wish to attend. So please look forward to that information to be shared with you relatively soon. Our major goal in Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation is to prepare our students for college and career success. We look forward to your feedback, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. We'll move on to our consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. The administration recommends approval of the 16 items appearing on the consent agenda. Appearing on our personnel report Under certified staff is one retirement during the bond. Teacher at Penn High School who will retire at the end of this school year after 4 years of service. Appearing under classified staff are 6 retirements. Linda Varga, Penn Pal's educational assistant, after 3 years of service. Marie Palin, business services specialist, could retire July 6th after 9 months of service. James Mueller, night school instructor, retired June 24th after 14 years of service. David Heron, custodian, Elsie Rogers, retired March 22nd, 2022 after 30 years of service. Michael Falk, young adult program education assistant, retired June 1st after 6 years of service. And Jacqueline Smith, young adult program assistant, retired June 2nd after 5 years of service. On behalf of the board and the administration, we wish Dorinda, Linda, Marie, James, David, Michael, and Jacqueline the very best in their upcoming retirements.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Board members, any questions or comments about tonight's consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the June 21st, 2021 consent agenda as presented by Dr. Thacker?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote? Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries by a vote of 7-0, and the board certainly thanks all of our employees who have dedicated so much time to Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation. We wish you well. And we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Appearing on the personnel report that was just approved under administrative appointments, I'd like to introduce 4 new administrators. So I'm going to have them come up, and then we're going to have them come at a later time, but I'd like to have them come up so that we can welcome them, and they'll come back and make a presentation sometime during the school year. And if they have anybody with them that would like family members, we'll make sure to bring them in so that they can enjoy this. So first of all, we have Bob Thompson, been named our new Director of Alternative Education Special Projects. Bob's been an outstanding principal for us. He began as an assistant to the principal at Elsie Rogers, then he was named the Elsie Rogers principal, and then served as the Bittersweet Elementary principal since 2012. There's Mr. Thompson, began his career in education in 2000. He received a bachelor's degree in elementary education, computer concentration from IU South Bend. He earned a bachelor's degree in public and environmental affairs from IUPUI, and a master's degree in elementary ed administration from IU South Bend. Bob has served as an adjunct professor from Bethel University in a graduate education program since 2015. He completed a 2-year program with Indiana Principals Leadership Institute and served on the Teacher Evaluation Committee, the Crisis Prevention Institute, and School Safety Officer. He has received the Penn High School Distinguished Alumni Award, the IUSB Outstanding Future Educator Award, as well as Teacher of the Year at Battelle Elementary when he taught in School City, Mishawaka. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Bob Thompson. Mr. Thompson, we're going to have you come back at another time to make remarks, but we'd love to have you introduce anybody who is special to you in this room besides all of us.
This is my wife, Lori.
Bob, we're going to get a picture of all of our new administrators, so if you will stay in the room with us, that'd be fantastic. Our second appointment tonight is night school supervisor Brad Boyd. Brad has been a teacher at Penn High School since 2012. He's teaching social studies, and he's also a dean of students. He was an interim assistant principal for Penn High School, earned a Bachelor of Science degree in history and secondary education from Southern Illinois, and a master's degree in educational leadership from IU South Bend. In 2017, Brad was awarded the Excellence Award in School Administration at IU South Bend. Brad Boyd, please come forward, Brad. What we're going to do, Brad, is we're going to take a picture of all of you. Is there anybody with you that you'd like to introduce?
Just my significant other, Johanna Gregory, who's a teacher at Penn-Harris-Madison as well.
Thank you. Stick around. We'll get a picture of you, Bob, and in just a couple minutes.
Thank you.
Our next appointment that appears on the personnel report is building principal at Madison Elementary School. This is Jennifer Sinclair. She's been with PHM for 9 years. She was a classroom teacher at Walt Disney, and then she became an assistant principal at Grissom Middle School. She received her bachelor's degree in elementary education from Ball State, an MBA from IU Kelly School of Business as a recipient of the Woodrow Wilson Grant, and she's been on numerous important committees. We're very, very proud to introduce her as the new principal at Madison Elementary School. Jennifer, thank you. Mrs. Sinclair, we're going to have you stay with us and take a picture of you in a few minutes. Is there anybody really important in here that you'd like to introduce? Important to you?
My husband, Chris.
And our final administrative appointment tonight is the new building principal at Bittersweet Elementary School. This is Katie Carroll. Mrs. Carroll, welcome. She's a PHM graduate, Penn High School, did her student teaching at North Point, taught in PHM for 13 years. She was a teacher at L.C. Rogers, and she was an assistant to the principal at Walt Disney Elementary. She's been our co-principal for the K-4 summer school program since 2018. And her bachelor's degree was earned from Bethel University, master's degree from Ball State, and also an educational administration supervision in 2017 from Ball State. She's the Norton Gillingham multisensory approach certified educator, and she's a certified school safety specialist. So welcome. And would you like to introduce anybody special to you in this room besides us?
This is my husband and my very best friend, Richard.
I think it's very, very nice of the media to come out and get pictures of our personnel.
Made it just in time.
I thought you would grow up.
Come on up. Come on up. Congratulations. So
Thank you.
proud of you. Proud of you. You're fabulous.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Dr. Thacker. And again, congratulations to Bob, Brad, Jen, and Katie on your new roles. You've done so much for the school corporation. We look forward to your continued involvement. We'll move on to our instruction action items for this evening. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. We're going to be talking about the update with our return to learning program, and we're going to be talking about the summer session. So welcome to all of you. We're delighted that you're here. We're going to start with Mr. Lenski, and he's going to give some information on how well we're doing with color-coded counties and such, and give you some data.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board. Each week, the Indiana Department of Health does release, see if this goes forward. Thank you. They release color-coded information as part of their Back on Track plan. And so every board meeting, we've been updating you as to what that looks like. Go ahead and advance, please. As you can see, the majority of the state has turned blue. And this is several weeks now that the majority of the state continues to turn blue. Blue is the best category that we can be in. It means it's the lowest level of community spread across the area. You can see a couple counties still are in the yellow, but the St. Joseph County has been in the blue for several weeks now. And in fact, we celebrated this. Unfortunately, it happened the last week of school, but we have been monitoring this and celebrated that accomplishment that final week. Advance forward. These are the actual numbers for St. Joseph County. And as you can see, new cases are averaging, this is updated as of today, 8 cases over a 7-day period. There are 134 total cases in St. Joe County. And I put the source on there because I know people like to follow this. These are their numbers. We have a positivity rate of 2%, and 44.7% of the total population is currently vaccinated. And then you can compare that to what that looks like across the state, and you certainly see that it's moving in a very positive direction for the entire state and looking very favorable as we move through the summer. These are the, so that was the state's metrics for the Back on Track plan. St. Joseph County had also a different, they had their COVID metrics, and you can see that we're currently in the green, which is their best category. And we moved there, we've been in green for several weeks now. Those numbers are actually as of last Friday. Go ahead and go back one. These, this afternoon, they released their current numbers, and I'll read them across for you. The current numbers are 7.6, 124, 2%, and then again, we're still at too few cases to monitor. So there are three things that we're dedicated to at Penn-Harris-Madison. We're dedicated to a safe environment. We're dedicated to a positive learning environment, and then an overall just positive environment. And so you can see, and we've communicated since the fall and how we've categorized things, and we kind of break that down, what that looks like. Because we do have activities, and we have summer school programs going on now. And so we're continuing those same protocols for our students. And we also have increased health staff over the summer, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But our goal is to obviously protect all of our school community, everyone who's on campus and participating to the greatest extent possible. We continue to consult with the St. Joseph County Department of Health and state and local. We believe that state and local health experts are the most prepared to and informed to equip and interpret the data to give Penn-Harris-Madison the best advice. Health services, again, are available during normal school hours for all of our students, and administrators and sponsors continue to email if we have any cases, of which lately we've been very fortunate. We've had 0 cases for several days now. So through the end of our second summer session, which ends July 2nd, we're going to continue our normal protocols. You know, Governor Holcomb has his current executive order for all school corporations calling for masks to be worn inside. And so we're certainly following that at this point. Face coverings or face shields are required while physically present in the building at all times, except there are a list of exceptions for that. We do allow students to remove their mask upon the teacher or staff members, making sure that we do have social distance, and we do that for intermittent breaks during the day. Per the federal requirements, and this will continue past the July 2nd, we are required to require masks on all school buses. That's not something that we have an option to consider, but masks are not required for strenuous indoor activities or while outdoors on school grounds. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, Mr. Lenski. Okay, with the safe environment, PHM will adhere to all federal, state, and local health orders. And as you can see on this slide, according to Indiana's Back on Track framework, and you just heard this from Mr. Lenski, St. Joe County has been in the blue category for several consecutive weeks, indicating minimal spread throughout our community. Dr. Fox also indicated last Thursday, shared with us that St. Joe County is currently experiencing a rate of 3 new COVID cases per 100,000 individuals per day. So 3 per 100,000. With the governor's mask order expiring at the end of June, PHM will continue to consult with the St. Joe County Department of Health. The St. Joe County Department of Health recommends the universal and correct wearing of masks for all unvaccinated individuals while indoors. PHM summer activities beginning July 5th are mask optional. Be mask optional. Per federal requirements, masks are required for students and staff while on a school bus or school-sponsored mode of transportation. Now, Dr. Short.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. So we will be continuing with our quarantine protocols for unvaccinated close contacts or for those with undiagnosed symptoms. We will continue to provide availability for our personal protection equipment, PPE. We'll be recommending that symptomatic students or staff be tested and then seek guidance from their healthcare provider. Per the executive order, again, we will be encouraging that all Hoosiers 12 and above receive a vaccine at no cost. We will be continuing with the enhanced cleaning protocols, promoting physical distancing, promoting hand hygiene, and then continuing with the HVAC extended systems with maximum fresh air and upgraded filters. So based on the latest contact we had last week with the St. Joe County Department of Health, we are happy to report that our building capacity has been increased to 100%. The classroom contact tracing distance will be 3 feet per the Indiana Department of Health. And then a few exceptions to that, the school bus, the lunchroom, and other activities that are deemed an elevated risk will be continuing to be contact traced at the 6 feet mark. And vaccinations are currently approved for ages 12 and above. So relative to monitoring and transparency, we do still have weekly meetings with the administration, our Teachers Association, and the St. Joe County Department of Health. Administration will continue its commitment to transparency through our dashboard, which is linked below, and through the school board presentations and updates. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you. Safety is a top priority, and we appreciate the partnerships that we've enjoyed with our parents, teachers, students, the Indiana Department of Education, the Indiana Department of Health, the St. Joseph County Department of Health, and the St. Joseph Health Systems. So thank you very much for your contributions to the success in PHM.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, Mr. Lenski, and Dr. Short. Board members, any questions or comments for the administration?
Dr. Thacker, just are there efforts being made by the administration to have a clinic similar to what we had for teachers and staff at a PHM site for parents that wish to have their child that is 12 and over vaccinated this summer?
Yes, Trustee Woods, we are in communication with our partners to see if we can offer a clinic or 2 clinics like we did for our teachers so that we can get as many students vaccinated as choose to be vaccinated.
Okay. I note that it says we're going to have continuation of quarantine protocols for unvaccinated close contacts. Is that for the period going up to July 5th?
Yes.
After July 5th, will there be any difference between how a vaccinated or unvaccinated student will be treated in terms of close contact, having contact tracing or quarantining?
You know, we really have an honor system relative to whether people are vaccinated or not. And as we looked at it, and we do not have the opportunity to really ask them. So we're going to try to be consistent with treating all people the same.
Thank you so much, sir.
Other questions or comments? So Dr. Thacker, just for purposes of clarity, because you've heard it from the board, and I rather imagine that some of the parents who've taken their Monday evening to spend it with us tonight have the same concern. Is PHM going to mandate vaccinations for its students?
No, we're not going to mandate vaccinations for students.
Will PHM have any method of identifying a student who is vaccinated versus one who is not?
The only way we would have it is if they volunteered the information to us. We are not going to be interrogating students.
How about some of your coaches and directors of organizations are putting out a document that's asking the students if they have been vaccinated?
We will review the protocol with our appropriate administrators, and then they can indicate, here's some for students to discuss with their families the pros and cons and make a family decision.
Well, my point was going to be, you said we don't have a way to know if they've been vaccinated or not, but there are those people, the students who answer that question, and they're going to know. The question is, what are they going to do with that information?
We are not going to be interrogating students relative to whether they're vaccinated or not.
That's a question that should not be asked on any documentation.
We are not going to be asking those questions.
Question as well. Is the recommendation for the vaccine from PHM or from the health department?
The recommendation for the vaccine is from the health department.
Okay, so PHM is not recommending
Nope.
healthcare, right?
No, we're educators, and so we're saying this is a family decision.
Board members, any other questions or comments?
Is this policy going to carry over into the fall, or does this just extend to the summer, through the summer?
At this point, with the information that we're asking approval for, is to put this in place for this summer for the summer activities, and then as we get closer to the fall, we'll have new information, and we will give an update each board meeting, and we'll make a recommendation prior to the start of the school year. And hopefully, it's like a regular school year. Hopefully, everybody's there in person, no mask. I'd love to see those faces, smiling faces of the kids and our employees.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, and to the trustees. I do note that we have a number of participants here in our group tonight who have registered to speak to this particular agenda item. So we'll call on them now and hear from the public. Before I call your names, however, I do need to read a statement that anybody who wishes to address the board on general topics is invited to do so under this item without registering. Actually, you have registered, so you're speaking to a particular agenda item topic. We will impose a limit of 3 minutes that'll be enforced for persons speaking during this section of the meeting. It is requested that your names and addresses be stated at the beginning of your comments. Individuals may speak only once during this particular section of the agenda. Personnel issues are not to be addressed during open sessions of the board. Concerns about individual employees of the district should be brought to the superintendent or his designee. And the board does not respond to questions or comments posed during the hearing of visitors or any other section of the agenda. I will ask as a personal favor, we do have a number of people who have signed up to speak tonight. And we also have people who are online who may want to speak later. So please do be respectful of the 3-minute limit. And when our board attorney notifies you your 3 minutes have expired, please wrap up your statement. So with that in mind, let me call on our first, which is Mr. George Bashir.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, Mr. Riley, members of the board. I want to come out and say thank you for the words that you just came out with. I've been working with a group of parents, as some people know, and one of the major concerns was the use of masks and how students may be influenced to get vaccinated and feel the pressure. My only concern this evening is with, I'm glad that you're just working and talking with the St. Joe's Board of Health. I am concerned though with Dr. Fox and how he keeps trying to change the rules or skew data, as he said previously last week about the number of folks that have actually are feeding into the herd immunity. He's not going to look at those folks and put them into the numbers. That's skewing data to drive data in a different direction. To do data correctly, you need to take in the whole census and review that data and use it as a whole. Break it out as you wish and say this number of folks have had the virus. But in order to get good data, you need to take in the whole statistic. So only thing that I would ask of the board is to be cautious with Dr. Fox and to make sure that we're not going back and relying on him to give us an answer, yes or no, that as a district that we can make the answers ourselves and use it as a consult, as not as an absolute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bashir. Next up is Anastasia Glassburn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the PHM School Board, Dr. Thacker. I want to first thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak. I've never done this before, and I think it's a great opportunity for parents to get involved. I also really want to thank you for what I just heard. My big fight has been masks, and so it's really nice to hear that you have used the word optional instead of recommended. That was very important. So my name's Anastasia. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a parent. I have 6 children. 4 of them currently attend PHM, all of them since kindergarten. I'm also a registered nurse. I have 11 years of clinical experience. I just want to paint a picture for you really quickly because it's been tricky, but we've been given end games before. We've been given promises and we've been shot down. So I like the positive message that I'm hearing, but sometimes it's hard to trust that because it changes so quickly. But from a science perspective, I want you to imagine for a moment, if you will, placing a piece of paper over your mouth and nose laced with E. coli, streptococcus pneumonia, tuberculosis, bacterial meningitis, or fungus for 7 hours a day. Does that sound appealing to anybody? Does that sound like a very healthy learning environment? So when masks are worn for that long, we can be exposed to more dangerous pathogens. And I know this because there was recently an experiment done by a group of parents who decided to send their children's masks to a lab at the end of the day. They put a clean mask on their child came home, they sent it to the lab, and they found 11 different pathogens present on that mask at the end of the school day. The mortality rate of bacterial meningitis, even if treatment is given in children, according to the Cleveland Clinic, is 10%. The mortality rate of COVID-19 in children is 0.23%. So I just want to drive the point home to the board that choices should be made based on science and not politics. We can't elect members of our CDC, but we can elect our board members. And we've elected you guys to do what's right by our children. And I trust that you will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. We appreciate your comments. Next up is Ashley Leader.
Dr. Thacker, Mr. Riley, members of the board. My name is Ashley Leader. I want to say thank you. My speech was completely different from when I came in here, so thank you. I do like the word optional as well. I do want to make note, though, that I am concerned when you talk about having a mobile site for kids 12 and under. There are school districts across our country that are doing this as well, and kids are getting vaccinated without parental consent. So just please take note of that. That is a huge issue. There are schools across our country that are talking kids into getting the vaccine, and then they come home and tell their parents when they are a family that doesn't believe in vaccines. So I just hope that you take that into consideration as you think about these mobile sites. But again, thank you for the word option. Thank you for everything you said. Thank you for keeping our kids first.
Thank you, Mrs. Leader. We appreciate your comments to the board. Next up is Luke Petrus. Come on up, Luke.
Hi. My speech was completely different for exactly.
That's fine.
But
Go with it.
I'm really happy what you guys said. I really like that you guys did optional, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Luke. I have a feeling there might be a relation here. Logan, come on up, buddy.
I was gonna talk about how I didn't want masks and the virus, but I wanted to say thank you for what you just said, and I'm really happy that I will not have to wear masks this next year. Thank you.
Luke, come on up. And Logan, everybody give them a hand, will you please? What grades are you guys in?
We're going into 8th.
Okay, when I was in 8th grade and 5th grade, the last thing I would ever think to do on a Monday night is attend a public school board meeting. But you know what? You guys are why all 7 of us do what we do, and 7 of us plus Dr. Thacker, because you guys obviously are testament to participating in this school board, in the school board meeting and in your community. We really appreciate you guys being here and giving us your input. That takes a lot of guts, and I really respect you. We'll give you another hand. Next up is Mr. Michael Dunn.
Way to go, guys. Dr. Thacker, Mr. Riley, board members, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your service. So continuing the theme of adjusted speeches tonight, I'll make my comments brief. I'm the father of 3 children. We're actually new to the PHM district. I'm very glad to hear that you're responding to the community and the new scientific data that is coming out and adjusting the protocols. I want to thank you for that. I will be sharing some additional information with the board just for background knowledge of some additional studies that have been released recently. But wanted to just share a couple of highlights with you now in regards to mask mandates in particular. So there was a study just released this month from a professor at the University of Louisville that was comparing the spread of COVID-19 within jurisdictions with and without mask mandates throughout the United States throughout the last year. And their original hypothesis was, unsurprisingly, that mask mandates would have a significant effect on the spread of COVID-19. Despite that initial hypothesis, they found that that was not the case, and that the spread of COVID-19 was not significantly affected in any way, with or without a mask mandate. There's another large study that was conducted in Denmark and released earlier this year around March of about 5,000 participants that also found a very, very small 0.03% difference in infection rates between a masked cohort and an unmasked cohort. We all know that there's a number of studies out there that show that schools, generally speaking, are areas of fairly low transmission of COVID-19 compared to the community as a whole. That schools are actually one of the safest places for our children to be. And another thing that just came out this week was the CDC released a report showing that mental illness emergency room visits were up by 31% for teenagers during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I just want to say thank you again for considering new data. I will be forwarding this to the board for your further consideration. We appreciate that you take it into account, not just the potential benefits of masks, but also the downsides to our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. We appreciate your comments very much.
Thank you.
Next up is Andy Rutten. No rush, we'll wait for you.
Well, I'm glad I didn't prepare a speech because it sounds like a lot of people are changing them. You know, it's encouraging to hear that I think this board wants to get back to a healthy, fun educational environment. Okay, masks aren't fun. I can't see any of you. Okay, I can't tell if you're frowning at me or smiling. Okay, for the kids, I think it's even more than that. Okay, so I think, you know, there's been comments that there are downsides to medicine remedies to try to limit the spread. There are upsides to maintaining a healthy environment, letting the kids interact, letting the kids have a good educational environment. And I would remind everybody, a couple of years ago, education was considered tough. It was a challenge year after year after year. So let's move on. As a parent in the school district, I encourage these efforts to move on and get back to focusing on the education as itself a challenge that we need to encourage with our children.
Great. Thank you, Andy, very much. We appreciate you being here and appreciate the rest of the board. Based on the public comments, board members, before we take a vote, do you have any other comments or questions? I will say, I do appreciate the administration's recommendation insofar as it emphasizes the word optional and that PHM is all about giving the choice to parents. I was impressed by the point that Mrs. Leader made in terms of students being vaccinated without parental knowledge or without parental consent. And I do trust the PHM administration stands solidly with the school board that we will never permit forced immunization or immunization without parental consent, because the step that we're taking tonight is a step towards maximizing parental consent and participation in choices being made about how we respond to the COVID virus. Am I right, Dr. Thacker?
Absolutely.
With that said, is there a motion to approve the recommendation of the Return to Learn plan as presented by Dr. Thacker?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, parents, very much. Thank you to the administration. We'll move on next to our school reports, and I will note, we welcome everybody to stay the full balance of the business balance of the school board meetings. But at this point in time, if having dinner or something else is a higher priority on your agenda, now would probably be a good time to take off. But you're
Mr.
welcome to
Riley,
stay.
I'd move for just a 5-minute recess. Just if you folks want to leave, they'll do an orderly fashion.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. We'll stand in recess for 5 minutes. Report. Penn High School 2020-2021 year-end achievement report, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. We now have Mr. Gallagher to talk about Penn High School. Mr. Gallagher.
Well, good evening. How's everybody doing?
Good.
See everybody, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, members of the board. I'm excited to be here tonight to go over our second semester achievement report for Penn High School. Definitely excited to have our two future students that presented earlier tonight. Maybe they have future in public speaking, so that'll be exciting. But really excited to give you some updates as we think about this challenging school year. Just a couple photos to kind of start us off. We appreciate all of the support this year as we work through the challenges to get to the end point, which is graduation for our seniors. And we were able to host a wonderful event for our seniors and their families that were able to attend that evening. And so we appreciate your leadership. My hope tonight is to go over a few updates regarding our goals for Penn High School as it relates to our school improvement plan. So I'll kind of touch on a few of these as we think about our graduation rate, standardized testing with ISTEP, and moving towards an SAT test next school year, how we work to improve programming within our social and emotional learning, and then looking at professional development and our attendance rate at Penn High School. So just as a snapshot of our Friday night a few weeks ago, you can see that we had a fabulous evening with our seniors. We had 17 valedictorians, 2 salutatorians, and a number of students who earned accolades. You can see we had over 450 students earn an academic honors diploma, which is impressive during this school year, earning more than $10 million in scholarships. You can see that our 2 major award winners, Benjamin Borgley and Nicole Marshall, were our Schmucker Award winner and Achievement of the Year. We were super proud of them and their efforts during their 4 years at Penn. And as you go down the list there, we had 1 regional academic all-star, Evan Lee, and we had 2 Lilly Scholarship winners, Dayton Bell and Grace Waddell. And I think impressive 15 students entering the military. So we spend the night honoring all of those students individually during our commencement ceremony. It was a beautiful night. It didn't rain. It was just a little hot for like 30 minutes. So in our black gowns, we survived. All right, so looking at our graduation rate, you can see our trend since 2008. It's important to see kind of the history here, but we're still hovering right around 97%, and we will be right around 97% at the end with our senior cohort, which is exciting as they work to wrap up their senior year. And then when we think about number of honors diploma graduates, I mentioned the number 450, and you can see that equates to a 53% of the senior class earned an academic honors diploma at year end. So it's up about 1% from last year and up about 3% from 2 years ago. So that's a good number. Remember, we have graduation pathways that students need to achieve now. That starts with the class of 2023. And we'll be working with students to get the academic honors diploma going forward, because that's one way they can meet the pathway requirement. We have a lot of students that are obviously going to be there already. So we're excited for them. All right, so college and career readiness is an important topic. So just as a refresher for our 2021 cohort, we're hovering around 75%. And as a reminder, that means a student either earned an AP score of 3 or above on an AP exam, or they have earned dual credit through either Indiana University or Ivy Tech at some point during their 4 years at Penn High School. So 75% have one or the other there. The state threshold is 25%. So we're meeting that goal. As you can see, from 2011 to now, we're in a good place, up around 50%. One of the big reasons for that is our early college academy, where we have lots of students who are their freshman year earning dual credit right out of the gate, their freshman year, which is very helpful to their future success. All right, ISTEP results and AP results. I was hoping to share those, but I cannot. So this is just a note to let you know that I will be sharing that. It's still embargoed. AP results, we do not have those results yet. And I look forward to sharing comparison data with our local school districts and some of the other state schools that we compare ourselves to pretty regularly. I'll share that once that data becomes public and is available to us.
As a parent, that's information that was very beneficial in sending kids to college. And that's one thing that 5 years ago, we probably didn't benchmark as well as we have liked to. And the administration and the high school staffs worked really hard on that. You guys have done great work in making those improvements on AP. So thank you guys so much for that. That's beneficial to parents and our pocketbooks.
Appreciate that. We do have some WIDA results that are encouraging as well from the 2021 school year. And you can see that we're trending upward. there, which is exciting. That's the average WIDA score for our ELL students. And so we're proud of that work and proud of our teachers who are working with those students on a regular basis. So just as we think back to my first semester achievement report, I did report out on first semester grades. So this is just a reminder of where we were at that time. We had about 88% of our ninth graders that were on track at that point in their academic career at Penn High School. You can see the grade distribution there. And the second semester grades are pretty comparable to that. When you look at number of grades at each level, we do have a little higher number of ninth grade students that are on track for second semester. And this does not include any data related to credit recovery for some of our students who struggled this year virtually. And so we're doing a lot of work this summer for summer school to get those kids caught up, which we're excited about. But this data only reflects the end of the second semester grades for our Penn High School student body. All right, so you hear from the early college folks yearly, and as we kind of wrapped up our school year, you can see the 4-year trend of students in the early college academy. So we had over 101 students this year who either ended up with their associate's degree, their Block 30, or earned 15 or more credits. So we're pretty much on pace, on par with the past 3 years in terms of number of associate's degrees, which is exciting. We have more students earning 15 or more credits as they leave Penn High School. And so we're excited to share that that student group has earned over about saved over $8 million in college tuition based on their work attending Penn High School and taking those dual credit classes. Okay, this is an important metric just to give you some insight into our Penway program as we look at student achievement. So we have students at Penway working on credit recovery. So we're averaging about 8.36 credits per day overall at the Penway Alternative School. So students who are there are successful. We're thankful for the leadership of Seth Molnar while he was there. I know he's in a new role now. We're excited to have Mr. Who's our new guy? Thompson. Mr. Thompson, yeah. Mr. Thompson, who will be there serving those students every single day. We're excited for his leadership. And then dual credit. This is just a snapshot. This factors into that 75% number that I shared earlier. But if you remember, I noted 75% of our kids have either dual credit or have an AP score of 2 or above. So you can see, while the number is down slightly from last year or from 2 years ago, we had that number was still at about 75% overall of the cohort. So that's just number of students earning dual credit by seniors in this cohort, 2021. Okay, so what I want to talk about now is just thinking about some of our other school improvement goals as we think about professional development. We spent a lot of time this year preparing teachers for SEL lessons as we think about our Take 3 motto, which you guys know our Take 3 motto by now? Well, Mr. Garrett does.
Yes.
Yes. Take care of yourself, take care of each other in this place. It's right on the screen. So we had a teacher wellness series, which was exciting at the end of our school year to kind of wrap up our professional development series. And you can see some of the topics we explored with our teachers. And we were excited to partner with Dr. Sears through her partnership. And we had teachers go through an EASL professional development program as well. So professional development continues for teachers, and especially as we think about next school year at Penn High School. Our focus is going to be inclusion, moving forward together. We're excited to have all students back in the building all school year. That's the hope, right? And we're going to do a lot of work kind of refreshing, rebooting our instructional playbook. I've talked about this at board meetings before, but we have an instructional playbook of best practices that we need to see in the classroom every single day. And this year we had to kind of pivot a little bit with some of the COVID protocols. And so we're going to get back to what some of the best practices are in the classroom and focusing on collaboration and implementation. So we'll have an optional PD menu for teachers as well so we can differentiate for them. Okay, spring athletics. This is always exciting to share at the end of the school year. So our spring athletes finished up We had 323 participate, and we had a 3.54 average GPA, which is pretty amazing for that student group because they're working a lot of extra hours on the field and in the classroom. And we have some MVPs this year. You can see on the left there, we had an MVP in boys track, girls track, baseball, and softball. So 4 out of the 7 sports, which is pretty impressive. And we had one coach of the year, Coach Dykes, which was good to see since we had baseball canceled last year, right? So it's nice to them to have a successful year. And then I don't know if I shared this at our winter meeting, but we did have a couple state champions, boys swimming 200 free relay and girls swimming 50 freestyle with Lily Christensen taking home the state title. And I shared at the graduation ceremony that we had Joseph Ratty, Aaron Dyes, Joel Cummins, and Connor Craig, who were state champions as well. And not on the athletic field, but in the classroom, we had a couple other championships. So our academic state champion English team won the state championship. So you can see our students who participated. I believe a few of them are actually at the board meeting tonight. They might even be in here. All right, here's Lily.
She's over there.
Didn't know you were going to be recognized tonight. They were state champions, which is exciting. And we also had a national championship with our teams. And I want to make sure I get this right because there are a lot of different levels of participation in these competitions, but they were a state or a national champion. They're the C team, Penn High School C team, a test of engineering, aptitude, mathematics, and science national competition. So they earned the national championship, and it's J.R. Roach, Anitje Wadre, I don't know if I pronounced that right, Jada Kim, and Luca as well was part of that team. So J.R. is Claire's son, so congratulations, Claire, if you can hear.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. You're in the virtual world. And as I wrap up, just a couple of reminders. One of our goals with our advanced ed feedback several years ago is to continue to focus on quality instruction. That we can never lay idle to that with our teachers, especially as we have new teachers coming into our building every single year. So we will spend a lot of time at the start of next year with our PLC leadership, making sure our leaders are helping our new teachers in the building. We'll have new teacher training. And then of course, we'll have some monthly live and virtual PD. We got really good at the virtual PD this year. So our hope is to offer that also next year because it's efficient and we can get more done when we can kind of pair both of those types of professional development with our teachers. So professional development will be a focus, and we'll continue to focus on our advisory curriculum. Our theme next year is Take 3. Again, we're kind of going full circle with our theme, and we're going to focus on all 3 next year of take care of each other, take care of our this place, and take care of ourselves. You can see some of the topics we will continue to focus on. And lastly, but not least, here you can see that I assume you've seen this report, but we're excited to share that Penn High School was indicated as a best high school by U.S. News and World Report. And it's important to see some context here. That's why I have all these numbers all on this. But it's based on, we're a 2021 best high school based on 2019 data. So it's always 2 years in the rears. But so our current sophomores who are seniors, when they took the I-STEP 2 years ago, their I-STEP results are part of this grading. Our I-STEP results were fantastic that school year, and it also takes into account AP success and AP participation. So we were top 4% in Indiana and top 7% in the nation. So we're very excited, and we celebrated that with our teachers near the end of the school year. So that kind of wraps up my second semester achievement report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board members, any questions or comments, Mr. Geller?
Yeah, I've got a couple, but okay. First of all, I want to congratulate you on a great year. I mean, even in a regular year, your accomplishments would have been good. I mean, I'm looking at the ninth graders, 88%, 89%, where they should be in the year that we've had. How does that compare to like a normal year? Is that close or?
Great question, Mr. Garrett. I would say in a normal year, we'll have about 93 to 94%.
So we, I
on
mean,
track.
3 or 4%, that's pretty darn good, I would say. So congratulations to you and the staff for being able to pull that off, because that was not an easy thing to do. And I was wondering also, do you have, it's really interesting to see where the ninth graders are, but how about like sophomores and juniors? Do you have data that shows what percent of the students are where they should be?
Yes.
As well. I mean, no, I don't expect you to pull it off the top of your head. I just wondered if we did have that.
Well,
I know you're awesome,
that
but you're not
question, 'cause
that
it's a
awesome.
great question. I don't have it at my fingertips, but our number of sophomores and juniors are a little bit farther ahead in terms of being on track.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
Have
wondering.
the number. Our seniors, we're in a good place. We'll have 97% graduate.
Yeah, I was just hoping that they didn't start off strong and then kind of fall off as they went forward.
Right.
But they stay up and run. That percentage are even higher.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great. Congratulations.
We had a higher number of freshmen struggle initially,
Mhm.
especially those that stayed virtual for most of the
Right.
year.
Well, that's a big transition too, going from middle school to high school. But you did a great job.
Thank you for your questions.
Other questions, comments?
Mr. I just want to ask, if I've got echo, I'll stop speaking.
Sounds great, Claire.
Okay, just for me, I just want to add that I really think you're an exceptional instructional leader and equally so a community leader. And you set the tone this year in the high school for calm, and we're going to get through this together. And as a parent and as a school board member, I'm very grateful. And that extends to all of the leadership in your school and in our school and all of the teachers and staff members that made this happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, sitting on that stage a couple Fridays ago, I think the actual temperature outside was about 95 degrees. On the stage, it felt like it was about 135 degrees, being dressed in black. But the neatest thing about that night was seeing all the graduates being so excited and knowing the year that they had, the extraordinary challenges that they had, the extraordinary challenges that you had, Mr. Gallagher, and all the administrators at Penn High School, and how you, the administrators and the students and the teachers have just been the rising tide that lifted everything. I look at these numbers and I think that is just an extremely impressive effort. Thank you very much for everything that you're doing for Penn High School, for the entire Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation. You truly are an exceptional leader. We're looking forward to more great results next year.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next item, which is a business operational action item. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Chief Operating Officer Aaron Lenski will present the first business action item for this evening with the awarding of bids for some of our 2021 capital building improvement projects. Mr. Lenski?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board. The administration has solicited quotes and will recommend awarding to the lowest, most responsive bidder for the 4 capital improvements. Letters of recommendation and bid tabulations were included in your packet. These quotes have been reviewed and approved by myself, our Director of Facilities, Joe Winters, and any contracted professional service representative. The first one is for change order number 4 at the Penn High School Building Addition. The administration is recommending approval of change order 4 at Penn High School in the amount of $13,266, and that would be awarded to our contractor, Gibson Lewis LLC, for various project adjustments such as wiring, lighting, painting, and design revision due to site conditions. The second one is an award at Horizon Elementary for restroom partition improvements. We're recommending in the amount of $32,337 to Robert Henry Corporation, and that's for replacement of those partitions. The third is at LC Rogers for countertop and restroom improvements. We're recommending Gibson Lewis for $13,099. And last but not least is our field and topsoil, and this is for reseeding. The administration is recommending those, and that will happen at multiple athletic and activity fields across the district, especially if we're doing some improvements at Walt Disney. We've got some bare areas in those kids zones, and we're going to try to get that fixed for a total of $30,005 to Peterson's Lawn Service. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Board members, any questions or comments for Mr. Lenski?
I just appreciate the administration. I mean, a lot of units, governmental units would have bid items A through C together as one package and just selected one vendor. And I know it's more work to bid those smaller projects individually, but you end up saving us money that goes into the classrooms, Mr. Lenski. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Woods. There are 4 motions that I will present, and we'll take a single vote on all 4 motions at one time. Do I have a motion to approve change order number 4 for the Penn High School Building Addition Project with total add to the original quote of $13,266? Award the Horizon Restroom Improvements to Robert Henry Corporation, amount $32,337. Award the LC Rogers Countertop and Restroom Improvements to Gibson Lewis LLC in the amount of $13,099. And award the Field Topsoil and Reseeding Projects to Peterson's Lawn Service in the amount of $30,005.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to our next business action item, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Mr. Lenski will continue with this next agenda item, a request to purchase a food service box truck.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board. One more time, the administration has solicited multiple quotes and will recommend to the lowest, most responsive bidder. Bid tabulation sheet was provided in your packet. The administration recommends approval of the quote from Jordan Automotive Group for a total price of $78,339. The vehicle will be purchased from funds in our food service account. Once received, the vehicle will replace a 2003 box truck that will be declared surplus and then sent to auction. If approved this evening, the estimated time of arrival for the new vehicle could be up to 8 months. So we're hoping you'll approve it tonight so we can get it ordered. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board members, questions or comments?
8 months.
Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of a food service box truck from Jordan Automotive Group in the amount of $78,339 as presented?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to our next action business item, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Lenski, will continue and share with us the next 2 agenda items: request for approval of amendments to the St. Joseph Regional Medical Center Health Service Agreement and the Athletic Trainer Service Agreement. Mr. Lenski?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening once again, President Riley, members of the board. Following this pandemic, I can sincerely say on behalf of the school board and the administration, we certainly value and appreciate our school nurses, our health aides, and our athletic trainers for all the support that they've provided our school community over the past year. This evening, the administration is recommending a 2-year agreement for school health services and athletic training services. There is no change in staffing for next school year. As you may recall, we did add both a nurse and a health aide for this school year. We're going to continue that for 1 more year. The price is built in for the 2nd year to continue that staffing allocation, but if it would change, we would then just receive a credit back from St. Joe Health System. And this is all to help the schools with the increased workload of managing and everything that's happened. Nursing and health aid amendment number 17 is for $686,523.12. That represents a 4.34% increase for the first year, and $703,886.20 for a 2.5% increase for year 2. For summer school and activities for this school year, or this summer, which we're doing right now, the total price is $29,305. Please note that that first year increase, which is 4.34, that represents a hospital-wide initiative to increase the pay for our health aides. And that's in order to promote the attraction and retention of those individuals who mean so much to our school community. The second item is for our athletic training amendment number 7. That's for $57,500 for the first year and $58,938 the second year. And that does represent a 2.5% increase in year 2. Contracts have been reviewed by Board Attorney Jeff Johnson and found to be in order. We continue to be very pleased with these contracted services, and I recommend approval for 2-year agreements this evening. Happy to answer any questions.
Board members, any questions or comments?
I have just one quick comment, Mr. Lenski. I'm really glad we're keeping the extra 2 folks that we added on for the additional year, and I actually think that when we renew the amendment, or add an amendment next year, that we consider leaving that as is and listening as well to the recommendation of the health center and all our professionals. But I just think that with the rise in concerns at each school, it if anything, just the food allergies and the airborne allergies and the increase that we are seeing across our younger populations, it makes sense to revisit considering keeping that on and taking, but yet taking the counsel of our health system. So just my 2 cents. I don't speak for the board, but just my 2 cents, and perhaps considering that next year.
Yeah, what's beautiful is it's built in for 2 years. So your vote tonight will go ahead and solidify for this school year and the following school year. So we'll be all set.
Great points, Mrs. Galloway. Any other questions or comments? Okay, first motion. Do I have a motion to approve amendment number 17 to the School Health Services Agreement with St. Joseph Regional Medical Center, South Bend Campus, Inc. to provide services for the next 2 years as presented?
I so move.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye. Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Next motion is, do I have a motion to approve amendment number 7 to the Athletic Trainer Services Staffing Agreement with St. Joseph Regional Medical Center, South Bend Campus, Inc. to provide services for the next 2 years as presented?
I so move.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye. Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
That motion also carries by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Lenski, for your presentations to the board tonight. We'll move on to our final business action item, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Executive Director of Business Services, Mr. Jerry Hawkins, and Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Dr. Heather Short, will share details for us on the ESSER grant funds. Mr. Hawkins?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. You have before you some of the basic information related to the 3 grants that we are asking for your approval tonight. We have the first one, which is called CARES Act, is ESSER 1. We use different terminology as the grant moved along, but we prefer to call it ESSER 1 so we can keep the 3 straight. ESSER 1 has a total of $766,844. ESSER 2, which has got CARSA or all kinds of names to it, it's 2.7, a little over 2.7 million. And ESSER 3 is the ARP Act, which has just over 6 million. These 3 grants are funded through the Title I mechanism, meaning it's funded basically proportionate to the way Title I dollars are funded. And the basic idea of the purposes of the grant, as we have written them and are intending to use them, of course, summer school expansion, as we've done and have started now for some time, expanding that from a normal summer. Professional development to help classroom teachers target instruction in areas of need. Interventionists at all levels to work with small groups of students needing additional content review in different core subjects, their main core subjects. Remediation before and after school. Additional resources that are needed for those different programs, YSP services, and certified education. So that's a quick list of the purposes of the grant. We're asking your approval of those grants. I don't know if Dr. Short has anything more to add to that. Certainly can chime in.
Sure. So thank you, Mr. Hawkins. So I shared some of that information with Mr. Hawkins, and just to make sure that everyone realizes on the instructional side, we really have kind of a 3-pronged approach, really starting with professional development, focusing on Tier 1 quality instruction for all of our learners as they return to us in the fall. In addition, you heard about the interventionist positions, which we're excited about. So we'll be doing some training this summer. Relative to that, I think there's only about 2 weeks of the entire summer where we aren't offering some form of professional development. So we have absolutely made a concerted effort there. And then lastly, the idea about additional resources so that our teachers and the interventionists are armed with what they need in order to not only identify areas where students need to grow, but then are prepared to provide instruction that are targeted to specifically those needs. So Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Short. Mr. Hawkins, board members.
Dr. Short, have you already determined how the interventionists will be distributed across the 3 levels, middle, high, and elementary?
Yes, Ms. Roach. So we will have one dedicated interventionist at each of our elementary Title I buildings. There are 5. We will have 3 additional elementary interventionists that are split between the remaining schools with some time in each building. We will have 2 interventionists at each of our middle schools, one that's focused on language arts and one that's focused on math. And then at the high school, we will have 2 interventionists that one will be a pull-out interventionist and another will be in a mentorship type role with different preps during the day.
Other questions or comments?
Yes, these interventionists we're getting them with the ESSER funds. So are they gonna, is this a permanent position?
No, it is a
Just to
3-year
run out.
position.
Okay.
Mhm.
Board members, any other questions or comments?
Will they be pushing into classrooms or pulling out?
Generally speaking, they are intended to pull out instruction, but each principal will be making final determinations based on their student data and what remediation and acceleration needs present.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3 grants as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Beeler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote? Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Good to see you always. We'll move on to our board reports and requests. The board has an opportunity to speak at this time. Board members, do you have any reports or requests to make? Hearing none, then we'll move on to our hearing of visitors. And I do know that we have a number of people who have come tonight to speak to the board. I won't read the full paragraph. I'll just remind everybody of some of the provisions that we have. Please just stick to 3-minute limit. I know we have a lot of people who want to address the board tonight, so just please be respectful of the 3-minute limit. We cannot discuss concerns about individual employees, and the board does not respond to questions or comments that are posed during the hearing of visitors. So let's get started with the first person who has asked to speak, and that is Mr. Andy Rutten.
First person, I thought I'd be the last person. So I wanted to talk about my son, Joey. He was just a junior. During this recent environment, he worked as a food service waiter at St. Joe Regional Medical Center. He was delivering food to all patients in the hospital, including those with COVID. He also competed at state in pole vault as a junior. I was very excited about that. Even more exciting, he is now at basic training in the Army. I did this 30 years ago. He went before his senior year, and then he's going to finish up the training after his senior year. The reason I bring this up is because I'm very happy with what he's doing. And you know, something that I talk to him over and over is always respect others, always be friendly with others, okay? And I know that this school values that. There's a lot of talk about new philosophies that I aren't real familiar with yet. And I just wanted to make sure it's clear that, you know, philosophies on respect need to be inherently sound. They cannot be contradictory or inherently hypocritical, okay? Kids will know this right away, okay? So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, keep the focus on education. Education is tough. And when they do well in whatever they attempt at life, they learn values by doing these things. So please try to keep the focus on education. And I also wanted to mention very briefly, you know, in the last year, there was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of flawed protests okay? All through the year, especially in large urban areas, there was a lot of flawed protests. There was also a flawed protest on January 6th, okay? We don't have to agree on that term, that's fine. There was another flawed protest that I saw, which was a letter sent out by Dr. Thacker on January 11th. I think it was impulsive. I think it, before the facts kind of were clear, it was kind of shot out. Comparing January 6th to Sandy Hook and Columbine, there's just no objective way that I can understand and relate to that. And there's no objective way that my son Joey can understand and relate to that. So that's okay. The last year was very frustrating, very passionate for all of us. So we can forgive, we can learn, and we can move on. But we do need to recognize flawed protests when it happens.
3 minutes. Mr. Rutten, thank you so much for being here tonight with us. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
So the way we'll do this is anybody who is here in the boardroom, we'll go with you first. So whoever's here in the boardroom who would like to address the board, please come on up.
Again, George for sure. Dr. Thacker, Mr. Riley, thank you, board members. Last meeting, I'm not sure if I was quite understood because I had a mask on. I had brought up a topic of critical race theory with some undertones being taught in the classroom. I didn't specifically mention SEL because I didn't want to fully just expose everything, but I wanted to bring something to your attention. I understand, Dr. Thacker, there have been parents and other folks calling and talking to you about critical race theory. I understand that PHM does not support critical race theory. But the SEL that's being taught to the students has the undertones of SEL. With the way that you opened the meeting this evening, I'm very happy to hear that you're going to have a session for the parents. For us to be able to sit down and listen to the speech, to your presentation, and then go from there. Having just come back from vacation and managing a lot of this activity with the group that you see here tonight, I received phone calls up until the time I was leaving for this meeting this evening. Your 3-tier program is failing, and let me explain why. They're taking the teachings of some of these activities that they're getting out of SEL, microaggression, for example, implicit bias, and things like structural racism. You have students that are getting reverse racism, okay? Folks telling white students that I'm gonna say something to you and you can't respond. And I'm gonna call you a cracker, or I'm gonna call you something else. And you can't respond because it's your word against mine. We need to figure out a balance of how we get this message across. We can't have one side taking advantage of this discussion while another side, and there shouldn't be sides, okay? We're the human race. We're not blacks. We shouldn't be looking at people as color of skin in the way that we treat people. We should be treating each other as human beings. In some discussions that I had, we're Americans. We're born in this country. We are Americans. I don't carry the hyphen in my name of Irish American, Polish American, or I have 3 of them. But I don't carry those with me, okay? I carry myself as an American. And that's what we need to teach our kids, is that you're an American, and that despite the color of your skin, you should be treated the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bashir. We appreciate your comments. Who's next? Mrs. Leader.
Dr. Thacker, Mr. Riley, members of the board, I stand here tonight for the parents who fear retaliation and teachers' fear of losing their jobs for speaking up against critical race theory tenets in PHM's SEL curriculum. These tenets force identity and political ideologies on staff and students, creating a very unsafe space and forcing them to go against their faith and consciousness. CRT may not be specifically spelled out in this SEL curriculum, but there are tenets that are overwhelming, such as implicit bias, microaggressions, redefining racism, equity, and the use of the white supremacy triangle. But most importantly, defining the white race as the oppressor, aggressors, and the root arbitrators of institutional racism in America, and that our white kids are born racist and should apologize, feel shame and guilt for being white. These tenets of CRT presents as though the goal is racial unity, but its true goal is to cause segregation, division, elevating one race over another, and dividing our children into race classes. And our kids have to sign agreements that keep these conversations as classroom secrets. You took it upon yourself to approve this dangerous engineered social justice experiment with no proven data or truth to it. You use quotes from influencers that promote 1619 Project, BLM, and Marxism. Your SEL curriculum teaches to approach conversations and interactions through a racial lens by examining their microaggression and implicit biases. And for those that feel they shouldn't talk to anyone out of fear of saying the wrong thing, your curriculum states, quote, people sometimes feel like they can't say anything right. And that feeling could be due to the microaggressor being fragile or even closed-minded. So technically, your curriculum states white kids are fragile, closed-minded, and aggressors. You stated that. Thank you to the teachers that fought to have the white supremacy triangle removed before our kids saw it. You should not have had to fight for that to be removed. But for those that thought it was a good idea to promote such a dangerous example, they should be held accountable, and they should not have any role in curriculum development. You have proven to us, parents, that you cannot do your job. You cannot make decisions that keep all of our kids safe, and that you are not capable of implementing curriculum that is reliable, trustworthy, and proven. You already have kids feeling uncomfortable, unsafe, and fearing to go to school. You have created an environment of hostility, division, hate, accusation, shame, guilt, unworthiness, victimhood, oppression, and disdain for this amazing country we live in and to each other. You have allowed what was put to rest years ago in our country to infiltrate our classrooms and the minds of our kids to look at each other through the lens of race, which is completely opposite of PHM's mission statement. PHM's triangle of success is broken. Your motto of excellence in education is now false. You have proven by implementing this curriculum, you do not truly believe in your goal of promoting healthy, positive relationships of belonging, inclusion, and psychological safety. Enough is enough. CRT tenets have no place in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Weaver. And I will say, for anybody who comes up to address the board who hasn't addressed the board yet, please state your name and your address. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Karen. I reside at 51850 Lake Knoll Court, Granger, Indiana. Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board trustee. I am a recent graduate, class of 2020 from Penn High School. I currently attend Yale University, but before I get started, I want to do a land acknowledgement. Today we stand on the lands of the Peoria, Potawatomi, and Miami peoples. And I also want to point out that this past weekend was Juneteenth, where we watched Black Americans celebrate and feel joy, but I want to say that liberation is not here yet. Okay, I just want to address a few points. First things first, it was pretty ironic that critical race theory is being brought up, even though we're not actually seeing this taught in our schools. As a undergrad at one of the top universities in this country, I'm telling you that even undergrads, heck, even postgrads aren't even seeing critical race theory touch their educational career. I am part of a group of student alumni that are working to make this school system better for everyone who attends. Last year, we wrote an open letter and we still stand by everything that we're asking for, and we're asking for more to happen because we're not seeing the just and actionable steps that should be taken in order to prove that PHM is actually an equitable and good place for all children, regardless of socioeconomic background and racial background to, sorry, I get really bad anxiety, to partake in. I've seen and I've heard people talk about education and not indoctrination. But I want to say that as a person of color who's grown up in these schools, the only indoctrination we're seeing is basically white supremacy hidden as
Let's get something straight. Stop for time, please, Jeff.
I did.
We're going to have a very candid familial conversation tonight. People on both sides of the aisle are welcome to express their points of view, and they're going to be treated respectfully and politely and professionally. We will not be laughing. We will not be making barbs at one another. It will not be tolerated. Okay, with that, you can start our time again. Please feel free to pick up where you were.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I know that PHM has hired a DEI officer, but diversity, equity, and inclusion doesn't come with just blind diversity. We want to see equitable and just things actually happen. But basically, I just want to say that we can't have children that are being taught that they don't belong in the system. I don't want to speak on my experiences or take over the floor for anyone, but how can SEL be taught without recognition of how systemic injustices contribute to the social, emotional, mental, and physical violence against our children? I hate to say it, we don't exist in a post-racial society, so I hope that you understand that we need to start doing better. Thank you.
Karen, thank you very much for your presentation to the board. We appreciate it. Who's next?
Hi everyone, my name is Manal Butch. I reside at 51363 Harbor Ridge Drive. I was not planning on speaking today. This is completely impromptu, so I apologize for any illiteracy you guys might see today. But there's just a couple of points of contention that I wanted to touch on today. Number one, there was a mention of strep and various bacteria and pathogens that people have found in masks. I just wanted to say that my mother is a practicing physician, and in discussing the mask mandate and vaccinations with her this year, she has made it abundantly clear that the proper use of masks and proper masks, coupled with frequent hand washing, is effective in inhibiting the spread of the virus, along with other viruses that have been at an all-time low this year. I believe the only study mentioned this afternoon or this evening was a study done at Louisville, which I personally looked into recently, a couple weeks ago. And I thought it vitally important to share a statement made by the leaders of the study themselves. The article has not been peer-reviewed. It's new medical research that has yet to be evaluated, and I quote, should not be used to guide clinical practices. Now, this statement was from the article writers themselves. I'd be happy to share the source with anyone who's curious, but I implore everyone in this room to continue to look into the effectiveness of masks and vaccinations, and to look twice at the credibility of the sources that they're looking at. One other point of contention that I'd like to talk about is the mental health issues mentioned earlier. Firstly, I want to state that a pandemic is inherently distressing. When over 500,000 people have died from a virus, from COVID, it would be incredibly naive to state anxiety and depression rates would not be affected. I don't doubt that a lot of excess stress roots in the isolation and loneliness that sprouted from COVID guidelines. But in the same breath, I want to urge you all, especially those of you who have spoke about mental health and the rise of anxiety, to look into studies regarding issues of academic toxicity that has been in the rise in the past decade. Heightened anxiety is not unique to the pandemic, and frankly, it's a bit disquieting that the mental health issues brought up today have been attributed exclusively to virtual learning. I'd like to share a statistic that I think is highly important to add nuance to this discussion. The National Institute of Health has reported that between 2007 and 2012, anxiety disorders in children and teens have risen by 20%, and this number is at an exponential rise. I'm not saying that COVID has not been anxiety inducing, but I am saying that I implore every person in this room, especially those of you who have spoken out today about anxiety and mental health, to not set this issue aside once we're back in school. It is not exclusively an issue of virtual learning, and it should not be looked at exclusively in the context of the pandemic. One last thing, I am an Indian American and I identify as so, and as my experience as a person of color and a hijabi in America are completely different from those of white Americans, I do not believe we can just choose to be colorblind. I am a citizen as well, but I refuse to ignore the color of my skin or let others be blind to the color of my skin. Thank you so much for my time tonight.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, come on up. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Andrea Hartstein. My address is 50804 Partridge Woods Drive in Granger, Indiana. And I wasn't planning on speaking, but I am going to now speak because I have 3 kids in the system. I have I'm just going to speak to you, but I have a going into 6th grade, going into 2nd grade, going into kindergarten. And my 7-year-old was a 1st grader last year. She had a fantastic kindergarten start. Couldn't have gone better. She had a really wonderful teacher. You guys picked the best teachers. She gave her hugs every day. She told her how much she loved her. And it was a really, really good year. And she did so well that she won. She was awarded the Lifeline Award. And her teacher told her that she could have won every single student of the month because of just what a great year she had. And so that's what we started with. And then we were entering 1st grade and she was excited about 1st grade. And that kid cried every single day from the beginning of school. I'm not gonna try to get emotional, but from the beginning of school until Christmas, every day, because she wore her mask and she couldn't understand the kids around her. She couldn't read their emotions. She didn't know when they were upset or when they were happy. They couldn't tell when she was getting upset, and she would be feeling. She was telling me that she was falling behind and she was getting anxious because she was behind. And then she'd start to cry and she would cry and she'd tell me, Mama, yeah, I'm crying in my mask and I can't breathe. And I tell her, if you can't breathe, you take the mask off. And she'd say, I'm gonna get in trouble if I take my mask off. And I said, then you go to the bathroom and take your mask off in the bathroom. And she told me, I can't do that because that's embarrassing. And I'm like, well, okay. And I asked her, how many other kids, like, does anybody else cry? And she said, yeah, there's another girl. And I said, do you just go and tell her that you feel it too? Do you give her a reassurance? Do you give her a hug? She said, Mom, I can't touch her. I can't give her a hug. I can't pat her on the back. I can't give her a high five. Like, this is hard for anybody. It's really hard for a 1st grader. So the anxiety is real. She did not have anxiety last year at all. She did not have anxiety when she was at home with us learning throughout the year. She was really excited about 1st grade, and the mask and just how different the environment was affected her greatly. And thankfully she's fine and everything's good and she's stronger for it. But I just wanted to share that aspect of our 1st graders and our kids, that anxiety was real for her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hartstein. We appreciate you sharing that with us. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Michelle Kwok. I live at 805 Harfield Court. So I was a freshman at Notre Dame this year, and Notre Dame was one of the few schools who decided to go all in person. And as residents of this area, I'm sure you guys could see all the articles of the many irresponsible actions that students took. And so speaking from a student perspective, as a school that was all in person, that was what impacted mental health along people that I saw wasn't so much the social distancing, the mask. It was the anxiety of getting a disease that could harm you and your family. I didn't go home at all first semester because I was scared of giving it to my family members who were at risk. And while the cases were rocketing, it's very tough to see people advocating for policies that could increase COVID cases while my family can't go back to another country to bury my great-grandmother who passed away at the beginning of the pandemic. And things like this are very frustrating to watch and see. Regarding vaccinations and masks, definitely we saw a significant decrease when student populations were vaccinated. And also spread of COVID was majority in a mass situation. So just from looking, not even just status, we can see that it definitely does decrease transmission. Another thing is I wanted to address some things about critical race theory that was brought up. And so I agree that critical race theory is definitely not being taught at our school. I think another guest tonight recently spoke on the hypocrisy that is inherently in our systems of philosophy. And one of those, this hypocrisy is found in the education system. We criticize foreign governments like China for covering up Tiananmen Square and ignoring the xenophobia that often comes with that. The hypocrisy is in that we ourselves don't address the true history of our nation. Over 13 years of school here, I have never heard the extent of our history in America being addressed. We don't talk about the genocide that was committed by the U.S. government to the Native Americans that live in the area. And I just think that if we want to give our kids a proper education, it cannot be talked about without the inherent white supremacy that exists in the U.S. government. And we cannot be... Sorry?
3 minutes.
Sorry, I just have one more sentence. And we cannot be fully functioning citizens without acknowledging the history that our country has in many of its actions.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Thank you very much. Who's next? Okay, is there anybody? Yes, sir, come on up. Michael Dunn?
That's correct, Mr. Riley. Thank you. So thank you again for your time tonight, board members, community citizens here. The previous speaker, I thought, said something that was very, very true, that we do have to look at the whole history of the United States. And I concur with her. There are indeed many things very bad in the United States history. And at the same time, there are things that are very, very good. And I concur with her that we need to teach the whole history. I do have some concern about some of the materials in the SEL program that were recently published online related to the microaggressions material. To be specific, I'd like to just read you some quotes from that. Theme: a second-class citizen occurs when a white person is given preferential treatment over a consumer or person of color. There is denial of individual racism. A statement made when a white person denies their racial biases. A white man or woman clutches their purse or checks their wallet when a person who is Black or Latino approaches or passes by. A white person waits for the next elevator. So we've seen this script before. It just as it has been terribly wrong in the United States history to put negative characteristics on other races, we don't want to go and repeat the same mistake again. It is always wrong to associate negative characteristics with someone's skin color. It always has been and it always will be. And it is very concerning that we're doing that these materials are being used here at PHM. It's not right. We do need to confront racism wherever we find it, and I applaud the efforts to do that, and certainly anybody who has been a victim of that. We don't want to create additional problems in how we approach that. We don't want to demagogue a new group trying to erase poor treatment of another. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Come on up. Mrs. Ruppert.
Jessica Ruppert, 55023 Ivell Avenue, Osceola. Obviously, I'm sure all of you remember me. Here we are a month later, still wearing masks. Dr. Fox has continually put out information to skew the numbers. We have over 60% herd immunity from naturally occurred COVID in this county. Our vaccination status is, I believe, in the 40% or very there near. That's almost 100% by my math skills. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this theater? These kids are not at risk. They do not hardly ever even show symptoms. And most of the students that you're torturing with masks can't get the vaccine. Number two, vaccines are at over 6,000 deaths from the vaccine for a virus that has a 99.98% chance of survival. You're killing people, not you people, excuse me, but we are killing people with a vaccine so that they don't get a cold. This vaccine, this type of vaccine, this mRNA, never made it through a clinical trial, ever. We are the clinical trial. End date, I believe, is in 2024. I will not put that in my child. You will not mandate it. I do appreciate that all of you have said masks will be optional. Parent choice is a big deal. Thank you so much for making sure and hearing our voices and instituting that into our skills here. But we have got to push harder. We have got to tell Governor Holcomb to stay out of it. There are at least 3 or 4 districts in Indiana that have already told them to shut off. They will not be masking. It's not even discussed. There is no vaccination status at all. They're not doing it anywhere. We need to push too. We need to put our kids first, no matter what somebody who does not live here has to say. And as far as the critical race theory, I was stationed in Iraq. Let me tell you what discrimination is. I'm a woman. I'm white. I was in charge of their medical care. They hated me and they told me to my face when they got out, they would kill me. I have never had an experience like that here. I have friends of all races, walks of life, all of these things. Never have they dealt with this problem in their lives. Stop creating racism. Dr. Martin Luther King got rid of it years ago. Keep it out of our schools. Morgan Freeman said it best. You want to end racism? You stop talking about it. Yes. Race is only important to identify someone and possible medical treatments. It has no place in schools. There is no reason to discuss it. You make these kids see race because you tell them you can't have that. This student deserves it because of their race. That needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. We will not tolerate it as the parents. The parents of PHM students are done. We will not send our kids back in masks, no matter what Governor Holcomb has to say come the end of this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ruppert.
Members of the board, my name is Heidi Hinkey. I live at 10035 Copper Chase Court, Granger. I have 2 children at Horizon Elementary. I'm here to expose social emotional learning for what it is. SEL may sound good at face value, but it is a mind-controlling program that seeks to influence a generation of children by radical ideology. When you accepted that Lilly grant back in 2017 to help implement this program, you sold out to a program that encompasses a deep-seated agenda. SEL adopts its core competencies from CASEL, the Collaborative for Social and Emotional Learning. CASEL is funded by groups such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, Novo Foundation, and the Ricks Foundation. All of these funders are extremely biased in their worldview and ideology. I send my kids to PHM because of your excellence in education. That is academic education. I never once gave you permission to influence the beliefs, behaviors, and mindset of my children through a program that comes from an ideology contrary to mine. It is my job as a parent to teach my children these things through my worldview. I never also gave you permission to keep data on my children regarding their beliefs, emotions, behaviors, and mindsets. As far as I'm concerned, this is overreach to the fullest extent. As far as critical race theory goes, you claim that you're not indoctrinating our children with critical race theory, but the truth is when PHM started implementing social emotional learning, CRT walked right through the door with it. If you look at CASEL's website, you'll see that they now claim in their definition of SEL to include an emphasis on changing what they see as systemic, deep-seated inequities in the education system. They also talk about transformative SEL, which is aimed at redistributing power to promote social justice through increased engagement in school and civic life. They use resources that promote CRT, the 1619 Project, and BLM, which is self-proclaimed Marxist organization. My children will not be taught to feel guilty for the color of their skin and that they are part of a systemic problem. They will not be taught to hate our country. My children are taught that everyone is equal in God's eyes, and we are called to love each other regardless of the pigment of our skin. We are all part of one race, and that is the human race. Marxist ideology has no place in our schools. As a freedom-loving American, I cannot be silent on this. I am not sure if you're completely aware of the dangerous agenda that SEL imposes on our children, or if you're just trying to cover it up. But whatever it is, I implore you to do your own research and to consider the dangerous waters that you are wading in. I believe the price tag will be much greater than you realize. Parents deserve full transparency of this curriculum and must be able to opt out. Better yet, remove this program altogether. It's garbage on its face and has no place in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hayden.
My name is Alicia Ramey. I actually work for this school district, but more importantly, I am a person of color and I'm a parent in the school district. What I have sat here and listened to for the past 20 minutes or so, in and of itself, is the definition of microaggression. I am a person of color who is also biracial. I am 50 years old. I was born in 1970 in Washington, D.C., the heart of the civil rights movement. I have witnessed and seen a lot on both sides. I have suffered racism by the hand by whites, and I have suffered it by blacks. What people fail to realize is that when you say you don't see color, or you don't understand why we can't see each other as one human race, what you're failing to recognize in that statement is that you're not seeing and you're overlooking and ignoring and stating that an experience that someone has had is not worthy of taking note of. It's the equivalent of someone coming up to you and saying, I have cancer, and you are the doctor with the cure of cancer, and you look over that person and refuse to give it to them. So on the one hand, while I believe, as one person stated, that Dr. Martin Luther King ended racism, which is a little baffling to me considering he was assassinated, so was Malcolm X, so was JFK, so was Bobby Kennedy, and the list goes on and on. I think anyone would beg to differ that Martin Luther King ended racism. If we want to have constructive conversations with each other, it has to start somewhere. And while no, we are not responsible for teaching values to other people's children, what we are responsible for, and I would hope everyone would agree with this, as adults who went into the field of education, we care about students and we care how they treat each other and we care how they view themselves. So it is not a discussion of how to make a child feel guilty. And it is not a discussion of how to make one child feel better than the other. It is a discussion of how can we find our way through this and have conversations and teach each other, quite frankly, to care for each other. So not hurling insults, not ignoring someone, but actually caring about someone else's feelings. And I believe that is what it is at the heart of it. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank
you. Yeah.
I did not come here to speak. I only came here to listen, but upon hearing what I've heard, I felt that I needed to come up here and just say something.
Well, can we stop you and ask you for your name and your
Yes,
address?
my name is Lily Marks. I live at 14282 Southfield Drive, and I think it's really important to think about how it is not up to people of color to teach white people how to treat them. It is, they shouldn't have to do that. That in of itself is absolutely baffling to me. They have to come up here and tell us the microaggressions they face, and they have to tell us all of the struggles that they face that we've never even thought about once in our lives because we didn't have to. And we still shut them down and we tell them that we should just ignore color. And that doesn't make any sense to me. For someone like me, if I want to learn about race and racism and how to fight it and be an anti-racist, I have to go out of my way outside of the school system to learn about that, even though that should not be the case. We should be taught that. It's something that should be taught in our schools. Everyone should be taught that. And that's all I wanted to come up here to say tonight. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lily. Who's next? Yeah.
My name is Laura Rosinski. I live at 521 Shepherd's Way. Some of you may have, I've spoken to you or talked to you in emails. I have been ignored over and over and over again. I've asked for your stance on critical race theory. I have asked what policies are in place to prevent ideological indoctrination for my children. I have 5 children in the Penn-Harris-Madison School District. I can't seem to get an answer. I directly email you. I ask a lot of questions, and I am ignored over and over and over again. And I do not understand why it is appropriate for the school who teaches my children, who our taxpayers go in and fund, do not respond to parents' questions. It is absurd to me that I asked that question. I posed it to superintendent, to the assistant of the superintendent. I sent it to the assistant to the board. I could not get any response. I ended up taking it up with Dr. Sears, which I did not get a response. I got a very long email back that said a bunch of nothing, which led to more questions, which were promptly ignored, and always told I was going to get back to, never got back to. No matter how many times I checked and said, hey, please, can I have response to this? I really like to learn about this. What is your stance? What do you mean by anti-racist? What is your definition of that? Is it Kendi's definition? Is it Robin DiAngelo's definition? What does it mean to be anti-racist? How does that look in practice, and how is it achieved? Nothing. Silence for months. How is that appropriate? You want to implement something on my children. You want to teach them the harmful effects of microaggression, but you will not even explain to me how you're going to do that. You want to explain to me how you're going to achieve that. Do you know how you're going to achieve that? Do you have an outlook? Is this something that can be done? That you can explain this to parents? How dare you tell me you're going to teach my children these things, but not tell me how you're going to do it and how you're planning on achieving it. I don't accept that I can be ignored, that parents in this district can be ignored. I can try to file a complaint. Still waiting a month later, even though I've notified appropriate people about a complaint. Not been contacted according to your policy. I've tried to follow policy guidelines. It is very frustrating and it's unacceptable to ignore parents with questions in the district like we do not exist. I can now hear from other parents, they also had the same questions, possibly, that I did. And I would like answers to those emails, and I would like answers to my questions. And I would hope that from this point on, you do not treat parents how you have treated me by ignoring questions about how you are teaching my children. And that you try to rebuild the trust with parents that you have broken, at least for me and my family. We don't necessarily trust you to make the best decisions for my children and their education when you cannot answer a question. Thank you.
Ma'am, come on up.
Hi, my name is Melissa Rossworm. I live at 54790 Bittersweet Road, just up the street. I have a son who just graduated high school at Penn. I have an incoming sophomore, and I have 2 kiddos at Queen of Peace Catholic School just down the street. So we're slightly new to the Penn system. I grew up in a small rural white town, maybe 2, 3 Black families, African-American families in the community. I am not a racist. Skin color does not mean anything to me. But as I've learned more about CRT, I feel like I need to speak out. The simple solution is that we need to turn back to our faith and back to our religion, whatever that is. We just need to love one another. It doesn't matter the skin color that we have. Why do we have to have teaching in school that we are, looking at this racist background and this? You don't even know what I'm thinking when you say microaggressions and this makes you say this and this, makes you think this, and it doesn't make any sense to me. If we would just get back to some faith within our families, within our schools, it would just flourish even more. And I believe this would just wash away and go under the rug. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anybody else outside the boardroom who would like to address the board? I'll wait for a few seconds. And then Mrs. Bradbury, I'll turn it over to you if anybody has asked to speak to the board online. Okay, is anybody online who wants to address the board?
No, President Riley.
Listen, I tell you, we've talked about some extremely serious issues tonight. Issues that probably in the political landscape can't be more serious. And it takes a lot of guts for everybody to come to the board and to pour themselves out and to speak your minds and to do it in a way that's respectful, that treats other people with dignity. I really appreciate that. I know the board appreciates it. I know the administration appreciates it, because these are tough issues that we have to address. But thank you so much for the parents who have come tonight and the parents who have treated each other with dignity and respect and treated our students with dignity and respect. We appreciate it. There being no further business before the board tonight, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Mr. Bueller, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Galloway, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Riley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Roach, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gates, how do you vote?
Aye.
We'll stand, it passes unanimously. We'll stand adjourned at 9 p.m.